Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special episode of Uncanny Treks. Today we are talking about Avengers Volume 6, Infinite Avengers. We are doing the Hickman run still. We are on Volume 6 of Adjectiveless Avengers from the Hickman run. And that is issues, 29 through 34, I believe, of that series. Matt, how you doing this fine evening?
Doing pretty well, Bob. Man, we are flying through Hickman's run, and all of it's good. I don't think I've seen anything from Hickman that I've said, this is not on par with what I expect. You probably ruined Avengers for me in general. If I ever go back and read anything else, I'm not going to enjoy it.
That's true. It's what reading this run did for me, too.
Yeah. I never really did to see a crossover between DC and Marvel ever again because he did a phenomenal job here without even needing the properties.
Matt, you're not going to read Batman v Deadpool?
I did read that, Bob. I did.
Gross. Fun little detail. Isn't Dan Mora the artist for that?
I believe so, yes.
You know how they're doing on AEW, the next crossover is a tie-in with DC, so it's the fight crossover, and so they have Mortal Kombat style pictures of all the DC characters who are going to fight around the ring in AEW. They're occasionally running a DC ad on HBO Max in between AEW shows, presumably in between the ice ads, still running a lot of ice ads. And then they occasionally will do a little ad read for a new DC, like the DC KO comic. Or this Wednesday on Dynamite, they did an ad read for Night Fight #1, which is the Batman tie-in to DC KO. And I gotta say, Night Fight is a pretty funny title for a comic. I was amused by that. But it's done by Josh Williamson and Dan Mora. But Excalibur, the lead announcer, who I'm not a big fan of, totally mispronounced Dan Mora's name and said it Dan Moore.
Dan
And
Moore.
so I was amused by that.
I've just realized too that I am talking about the new Avengers, and I should be talking about the Adjectiveless Avengers because we're not going to worry about the Justice League showing up until new Avengers. Here, though, we're going to be launched into time really, really far.
You know, Matt, if you didn't apologize, I wouldn't have noticed because I just thought you were talking about the whole Hickman run. I didn't realize you were looking on the notes for the wrong page.
It's all good, Bob, because it's still all connected. It's still the same writer. And I don't know how anyone can. I know it sounds like we're just giving Hickman a BJ here, Bob, but I don't know how you can keep up with this in one single year. All the stuff that's going on in this comics. I'm the reader. I can't keep up with it.
Well, Matt, don't worry. Next week we're going to look at a weaker part of it.
Okay.
Now, granted, his involvement with that was much more truncated.
It was minimal. I understand, but having these two run simultaneously, parallel to each other, and I was reading this during 2013, I would still be confused out of my mind.
That's because you're weak, man.
Apparently. But we're going to make it through this, Bob, because this one's about time travel, and it's complicated, but it's cool.
Like we said, issues 29 through 34, Hickman's the writer. Leinil Yu is back on the art. He drew the Infinity issues of Adjectiveless Avengers, and as I said when we covered Infinity, he's probably most famous for that Ultimate Wolverine versus Hulk comic, and also Superman Birthright with Mark Waid, which I didn't love, but should probably revisit, and I think Matt hasn't read, right?
Yeah, we're going to have to revisit that one day, Bob. That'll be a good podcast. Superman
Good podcast.
Birthright.
Good podcast. So, Matt, in issue number 29, Infinite Avengers, what goes down?
Well, Bob, in Infinite Avengers, Captain America remembers the Illuminati and confronts Tony Stark when the Time Gem reappears and launches them 48 years into the future.
I do have to ask, were you more surprised by the Time Gem returning, or were you more surprised by the 48-year time jump it occasioned?
I was probably more interested in this 48-year time jump because we knew the Time Gem wasn't destroyed. It was the only gem that wasn't destroyed. And I'm no rocket scientist, but the idea is that eventually the Time Gem can be used to go back in time before the gems were destroyed and probably keep them around. I'm just throwing that out there. But I get that. Anyway, we get the return of the Time Gem here, but it just launches them way into the future. And there's no real explanation as to why it goes just that far into the future, which is 48 years.
Well, there seems to be a thing, as we'll see, with exponential growth.
There's exponential growth, but there's no specific reasoning as to why it's 48 years.
The gem is shattering, and so it's propelling them further and further. Spoilers, listeners, but it's 50, then 500, then 5,000, then 50,000 out.
I get the idea. Yes, they continually get launched into time further back. I just don't understand why it's that time frame. Why is it 48 years specifically?
Because the Time Gem is exploding and it's propelling them into the
future. Does the Time Gem have a setting that says just do 48 years?
It's not controlled. The thing is falling apart.
Oh, so it is just random, is what you're saying.
It's
Oh,
random.
that's what I
Yeah.
needed to know because it's
Yeah.
shattering. They don't have any control over it.
I assume it's coming back to Cap because he was the one who was handling it last.
Yes.
And it's 48 years and then 422 years and then whatever, because Hickman's a little clever and not make it perfectly even, but it's generally exponential progression.
Yeah. It's crazy though, folks, as we go way forward into the future, which I feel like we've done before, but it's always fun.
My favorite panel from this is page 14. We get a little nice dramatic irony where Hawkeye is talking to Black Widow about justice coming, and he's talking about the evil multiverse Avengers that we were seeing last volume. But at first, it seems he's talking about the Illuminati. And so that's a nice little bit of dramatic irony.
A little wink and a nod.
Were you surprised that it seems Black Widow is more loyal to Captain America than Iron Man, while Hawkeye, he goes with Widow and goes with Cap, but he's a little more hesitant?
Hawkeye just follows Widow usually. That's my take.
Just
Hawkeye
being
and
pulled
Widow are
around
pretty
by his
much stuck
news.
together.
What was your favorite panel this issue, Matt?
But my favorite panel is on page 21. We've got Cap slugging Iron Man after he tells Cap that he was the one whose morals correct first.
Nice. It sets up a little motif for these issues.
What this boils down to is that Iron Man is ultimately going to be some sort of world destroyer, I'm guessing, due to all the antimatter bomb he's bought, he's created, and the way they're destroying the worlds during the incursions. And he's the one that's going to be the bad guy.
So number 30 is 50 in the future, Matt. What goes down in that issue?
Well, Bob, the Avengers have been transported 48 years into the future, where they encounter the Avengers Union and an older Hawkeye who whispers some advice to Captain America.
My favorite panel this issue is 13, where Old Man Hawkeye references Hawkeye's dog, Pizza Dog, which is from the Matt Fraction
Right, yeah.
David Aha run, which I think had just wrapped up or was winding down when this came out.
I do remember Pizza Dog.
Pizza Dog was good. They didn't do Pizza Dog in the show, did they?
I don't believe so, no.
Yet another reason that show sucked.
That was a Christmas show.
It was a terrible Christmas show.
My favorite panel in this issue is on pages 17 and 18. We got two issues of people punching Iron Man, and in this case, we have a Hawkeye punching Iron Man because of his betrayal. But before he punches him, he shoots him in the shoulder because he knows he can get in closer if he does that first.
Yeah, isn't it a shock arrow? Or
Yeah,
something?
it's like a shock area. He immobilizes him for a moment.
Reading this right after reading the issue of New Avengers last week, where we have the repeated multiversal Illuminati meetings and then the multiversal Justice League of America meeting, right? Where Hickman really does this thing where he'll do strong repetition month to month, but he'll also do repetition with variation. And we get that with people punching Iron Man in this arc.
Each time you go into the future, people still hate Tony Stark.
They do. The reveal at the end of this issue is that we're going 422 years into the future. Do you think that's a weed joke?
I don't know, Bob. You told me the numbers were random, so I guess not.
Random in terms of the story, maybe not necessarily random in terms of their intended effect.
420 is 2 away from 422, so
Because 420 would be 2 on the nose, man. That'd be 2 on the nose.
Then the fact that the city itself is its own carrier here.
And it's emblazoned USS NY45C, which
Right.
feels Star Trek-y.
As we move into this issue, folks, which is issue number 31, it's titled 500 into the future. The Avengers have
But
been
it's
launched.
not 500, Matt. It's just 422.
It's just 422. The Avengers are launched 422 more years into the future, where the planet has been overtaken by Ultron.
Oh, no, Matt. We know Ultron from Avengers AI.
Yes, Bob. Ultron's bad. We don't like Ultron.
We don't like Ultron. So my favorite panel was on 11 and 12, where we have Cap. I believe it's in context of him being examined or interrogated by Ultron or one of Ultron's avatars, but he's having a nightmare of Black Bolt calling him stupid and Namor saying the entire Illuminati is laughing at you. And I just like that whatever his mad quest for vengeance that we see later in issues in this arc, Cap has feelings, and his feelings are hurt that they mind wiped him.
He does, and they're driven by these mean, bullyish comments. That's the reason he's after the Illuminati. Not because they destroy worlds, because they called him
because
names.
Cap is against bullying.
They called him names, and it's not nice.
Well, I don't think they actually did, but he imagines
I like to
that
think
are.
they did, Bob. In my timeline, they did.
So Namor's, wait, he's not going to remember any of this? So
Yeah,
I can
we
say
may-
anything I want?
Exactly, and they just talked about it for an hour. It's awesome.
An important thing to underline here, and I say this because I often forget it too, is that Captain America and Namor are old friends. They fought in the war together. Now, granted, they weren't friends that whole time, right? Because Cap was in the ice for most of that time. But nonetheless, they're war buddies, right? And so, in a way, Captain America imagining Namor saying this about him is probably more hurtful than anybody else on the Illuminati, except for maybe Tony Stark saying it.
So much more personal, Bob, than when they fought side by side in the war. My favorite panel is on page 19. And it's when they put a bomb inside Captain America's left eye.
That's cool. Cap needs a bomb, man. Were you surprised that at the end of this issue we get down to, and we've had a group of Avengers. We didn't clarify that very strongly, but we have a group of Avengers that are going forward with Cap, but he's slowly losing people each jump. And so we get to Cap, Black Widow, and Starbrand are the last three Avengers. And I don't think there's any great significance to that, but I just did think it was interesting that those are the last three surviving time refugee Avengers.
Especially with Starbrand, because I forgot he was with them. Cap and Widow actually play parts, but Starbrand's just there.
They are doing some stuff with Starbrand in the next issue, but I didn't really emphasize it in the notes, and you didn't really emphasize it in the summary.
If listeners notice that each time they go do jump in time, something is being collected or they learn something. So in the first one, we had Hawkeye whisper some advice to Captain America. Here we have this bomb implanted in his left eye. But then we jump forward even further in time, Bob, where we're launched 5,000 more years into the future. And the remaining Avengers, they meet Franklin Richards and they discover Avengers World.
Which has been the catchphrase, which was the name of the first trade, and a catchphrase that we see a couple times through the run, and we see it get literalized here. We also saw it get used in a more sinister way by one of the multiverse Avengers in New Avengers, talking about making something in Avengers World in terms of conquering it. But we're in issue number 32. It's 5,000 into the future. And Matt, were you so happy to see Franklin Richards standing in the garden on page 6?
I was, because that ties in directly with Hickman's Fantastic Four run, which was cool.
This seems to broadly be pretty much the same version of Franklin we saw in that. And it's unclear, but I think you can imagine the futures you see in Hickman's Fantastic Four run being pretty much on the same timeline as what we're seeing here. I should have gone and done a little research about the dates on that, but I didn't think to. But you could see them as being alternate, but you could also see them as being the same.
I wouldn't even know where to go back into Hickman's Fantastic to even find that information, but I'm sure it would be there.
Well, listeners, I would use the resource I have of looking at our old notes. From those old notes, I would look at the Marvel Wiki entry for a couple of issues and try to see. That would be my research process.
Folks, I would just guess. So there you have our strategies.
Or different strategies. My favorite panel for this issue, Matt, issue number 32, is either page 7 or page 11. On page 7, we have the reveal that Black Widow used to babysit for Franklin, and she once arranged his toys in the order of their usefulness for murder, which is sweet. That's a good thing to do when you're babysitting. But I also liked page 11. We have Franklin giving the standard, "Welcome to the future. We've evolved beyond your petty human needs" speech.
Right.
We've evolved beyond nationalism, capitalism. They're dead. So that's nice. I was happy to hear both of those things.
Really
Both
nice.
that Black Widow used to babysit Franklin and that it only takes 5,000 years, but we get past nationalism and capitalism, folks. They're dead.
All right. We finally get there. It'll be our great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren.
That neither of us have.
Bob, you had a guess at what you thought my favorite panel was going to be.
No. Your least favorite.
Oh, my least favorite panel. You had a guess at what my least favorite panel was going to be. And what was that? What was that?
That was page 10, Matt, where we see the wonder of the humans living around Saturn. But in terms of, we would say, real estate on the page, the wonder of humans orbiting the planet Saturn, you have to say it pales next to the size of the improbable chest and genital bulges that Black Widow has on that page.
They really wanted your eyes to go to one direction, and that you were able to find it pretty easily. Let me just say that Saturn being mined is not like the future I want to see.
The future you want to see, Matt, is Black Widow's improbable chest and genital bulges.
The drawings here of Black Widow are odd. I'm just going to leave it at that. This issue specifically, I don't know what they did wrong, that they just come off.
Oh, I know what it is that they drew her chest and genital bulges at very improbable, disproportionate sizes, man.
It's straight, but it's also like she doesn't really serve much of a purpose in this issue.
The interactions with Franklin are cool. It could have been anyone. It didn't have to be Widow, but I like Widow, and I think it's interesting that it's her and Franklin interacting. Although that said, the crazy sexualization of her does distract from that.
Artist was glad it was Widow.
Linnell Yu was certainly glad it was Widow. Speaking of characters maybe feeling a little off in this issue, I can't decide if it's a nice character touch or if it's a bad character touch, but especially on page 14, Captain America comes across as totally simple-minded. he only wants Franklin to tell him how to defeat Iron Man. He doesn't care anything
About
about the
incursions.
wonders of the future.
I caught on to that too. Captain America, he's so simple. And that goes back even to the dream. That dream is the most simplistic, childish dream ever. You get
Yeah.
that impression of Cap here. He's so naive.
On the one hand, there is supposed to be a profound moral wisdom to Cap of in the whole situation of the Game of Worlds, right? Whatever you do, you don't blow up a world. That's not an option. That's a very credible moral position, but there is something really deeply simplistic about this. Of, okay, I am just mad at Tony Stark. Nothing else matters. I don't want a solution to the Game of the Worlds. I don't want a little hint over how to abolish capitalism or nationalism or how to improve the world. I just want you to tell me how to punch my friend in the face.
He's a one-track mind.
Did you have any thoughts on the similarity of Avengers World in this set of issues to Avengers Empire from Avengers AI?
Avengers AI was not my favorite, but when you
But
start
we did get
looking
the Avengers Empire in like the last 2 issues of
yeah,
it.
when you start looking at that and all the things that connect to it and the way they are similar to these characters to some degree, it's almost like retreading a little bit.
I wonder how much Humphreys and Hickman had compared notes on that or not. They didn't have to, right? It could just be they both got there independently. That would make sense. The easiest answer would just be that they're alternate timelines. The Avengers world is 5,000 years out. I didn't jot it down in the notes, and I'm annoyed at myself for not doing that. But just from consulting the wiki, as best I can tell, the Avengers Empire and Avengers AI is 10,000 years out. So if you do want to assume they're the same timeline, which isn't necessarily a safe assumption, but if you do want to assume it, it is the Avengers world endures and evolves for 5,000 years to become the Avengers Empire.
I like that too, the way that will be set up. And if they have it, that has crossover potential somewhere, Bob.
There is an interesting thing, right, of the way Hickman structures it. We see an Ultron takeover, then we see Avengers World. Then if we keep going and we saw Humphrey's Avengers Empire, it's the merging of some of those elements of the Ultron time with the merging of Avengers time gives you the Avengers Empire, which is interesting.
So tell us a little bit about Avengers World.
Yeah. So we find out in this issue that Avengers World, and this is also very similar to Avengers Empire from Avengers AI, but Avengers World has synced the Avengers up with the Shi'ar Imperial Guard, the Universal Inhumans from the Fantastic Four run, and S.H.I.E.L.D. And S.H.I.E.L.D. is now gone Doctor Who, and it's a time-traveling organization, which in a weird way somewhat fits in with Hickman's small S.H.I.E.L.D. run. It's not exactly the same, but it's thematically appropriate given what Hickman did to S.H.I.E.L.D.
I take it it's more time cop than the TVA.
Here, it seems more Time Cop or the TVA. As I'm remembering Hickman's S.H.I.E.L.D., it's neither, but what he does with it sets, in a way, you can see it setting up S.H.I.E.L.D. becoming this, if that makes sense. Did you like the reveal that it was the Avengers world that sent the rogue planet back to help out the Avengers in 24? When we read Avengers 24 the other week, it feels just another world-shaking calamity, but it's no, actually, that's their bros in the future trying to help them out.
They're just launching rogue planets back there.
Yeah, giving them a fuel source, man.
Giving them some stuff, give them some energy, give them some power. Remember, guys, they had to phase those two planets together. They had to phase the rogue planet into our planet to make a power source.
Hyperion did that. It's like that Joe Biden sticker, but instead of Joe Biden, it's Hyperion.
Hyperion gave us that energy.
Points, I did that.
Not the people in the future.
We also find out on page 17 that we're dealing with a Stark dynasty here, which does have interesting, sinister overtones and obviously sounds like the Kang and the Ultron dynasties, which are catchphrases you hear get thrown around a lot in Avengers comics.
I never really think of a Stark dynasty, but it does have a ring to it. Does he have
Go
kids
ahead.
in the comics at all? I've never.
Oh, that's a good question. He's become a teen himself. That was a thing in the 90s. He was Teen Tony for a while. Doesn't he have a kid at the end of Iron Man 3 and the end of the Avengers?
What, the film?
Maybe. Yeah.
It alludes to him having a child in the end of the Avengers.
With Pepper, right?
With Pepper, yeah.
I can't think of Tony Stark having a kid in the comics, but I wouldn't necessarily know, man. I don't like Iron Man, so I don't read a lot of Iron Man
I think he
stuff.
does. From what I've read, no, I haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
I've actually read a decent amount of Iron Man. It's mainly 2000s Iron Man.
Yeah, the Fraction run. I read the Fraction run. I read most of the Kieran Gillen run, in which I think he has a brother, but not a son. And man, I can't think of any other.
It's hard to have this dynasty if you don't have kids, but then he's got grandkids in the future based on these comics.
Oh, I read the Bendis run, but I don't remember anything about it, honestly. No. Except for the arc where Dr. Doom becomes Iron Man is cool. We might just do that. We would never do the fuller Bendis Iron Man. We might just do Doom as Iron Man.
That would be interesting.
One other thing I wanted to emphasize from these issues, Matt, is as Franklin is expositioning to Widow and then to Captain America, right, we basically get a sense of future Franklin's ideology, which in his ideology, time isn't real, but fate is real. And I wonder, is that basically what Hickman believes, I wonder? Or does he believe that it's contradictory and he's just presenting it as what Franklin believes? I'm not sure. The presentation is a little nebulous in that sense. Not that that's a problem, but I find that interesting. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to believe, along with Franklin, that time isn't real, but fate is real, or if I'm supposed to believe that Franklin is deluding himself.
It's meant to be contradictory because that's true. If time wasn't real, what fate is, how are you going to have one without the other?
It's a fun little brain teaser in that.
Yeah, it was intentionally written that way, and it is
Yeah.
contradictory. So I'm just going to assume that is his ideology, and that's what he believes. And even though but it reminds me of Reed too. Reed's that way sometimes too.
Maybe different terms for Reed, but
Oh,
yeah,
of course.
like believing a paradox. That's
Right.
very Reed. It's interesting in a way. It feels like Franklin is much more Sue's kid than Reed, but that's a way in which Franklin might very much be Reed's kid. One last thing Franklin says is he tells Cap to ignore Old Man Hawkeye, which we still don't know what Old Man Hawkeye whispered to Cap, but Franklin is telling him to ignore it.
Right. To keep the readers afloat here, Hawkeye's whispered something in his ear. Then we went ahead in time, and Captain America got a bomb behind his eye. Then we go ahead in time. Then Franklin tells him not to follow Hawkeye's rule or order or whatever it is, his advice. Well, Bob, my favorite panel's at the end when we find out that they were actually on a rocket ship the whole time, and it was Groot.
We pull out, and I noted the garden setting that Franklin is in at
Yeah.
the start, but it turns out at least the big tree in that garden setting is Groot.
It's Groot.
It's Groot. This was the time for it to be Groot, Matt. It was
Yeah.
2014 or so.
It's perfect. All right, Bob. Issue 33, 50,000 into the future. So they're
Ooh.
launched 50,000 more years into the future. Captain America is destined to have his consciousness uploaded into the world core, but the bomb inside his eye delivers a virus that destroys the AI.
That was a lot easier to read than the comic itself, Matt. Good job.
This was not an easy comic to follow.
Good
Yeah.
job boiling it down. I enjoyed the comic, but your summary was helpful.
If you're going to read this run, this is the one you get to where you're, oh, this is insane.
This is us going past the Avengers Empire and Avengers AI. They are on the same timeline. I will say a bit I really liked early in this comic was page 8, where we have the automated system from the World Core, and it's identifying Captain America as extinct, abnormal, and atemporal. I thought that was really funny. Matt, do you remember us reading DC 1 Million?
Yes, I do. And these characters, these hollow, they're lightning bolt looking. They look like the
Yeah.
ones from DC 1 million.
This issue really does feel like Hickman's homage to Grant Morrison's DC 1 Million, but the difference is, well, I wouldn't call DC 1 Million bloated. It was 4 issues and a bunch of tie-ins, whereas this is
Right.
1 issue.
Right.
What was your favorite panel, Matt?
Well, Bob, my favorite panel is when the bomb that was implanted by Ultron jumps out of Captain America's eye and ink goes into the system. I thought there's this blood that just shoots out. They didn't hold back. They didn't just let the little nanobite jump out of his eye. No, they let it explode out of his eye.
What we're saying is we really don't like how Lineal Yu draws Black Widow's body, but we really like how he draws Captain America's bomb eye.
Yes, the bomb eye was incredible.
I did just want to point out, too, about how appropriate this feels for Captain America. In a way, it feels, when I think Captain America, I just think on the street superhero stories, punching out Spider-Man villains, basically. Or I think of him leading the Avengers, but he is a time travel character, fundamentally,
Oh, yeah.
right? That's the basic premise of him, is he's a time travel character.
But the slow way. He's
The slow way.
frozen.
Doing this
Time
story
machine.
where he's propelled further and further. And one of his nicknames is he's the man out of time.
Yeah.
And so making him more and more the man out of time is a really fascinating touch.
He's way out of time, Bob. And because of that, he does become the last Avenger in issue 34. And
Well,
he-
is it him, Matt, or is it somebody else?
Well, he's in fractured temporal space, Bob.
Indeed.
And Captain America is trapped in time by Kang, Iron Lad, and Immortus.
See, I think it's Iron Lad who's the last Avenger, bro.
You think
But
so?
But I think he's been called that in other contexts. But I grant
Oh.
you that the title is ambiguous, and you
Because-
could be meant to think that Iron Lad is an imposter and
That's
Cap is the
right.
real last Avenger.
Well, Bob, the reason I believe Cap's the last Avenger is because he takes Hawkeye's previous advice and he fights back to recover the time gem. And then once he's returned to his regular time, Bob, Cap gathers the Avengers and he decides he's going to take on the Illuminati.
All right, Matt, do you know who Iron Lad is?
Iron Lad is a younger Kang, and the only reason
Yeah.
I know this is because of Marvel's Snap.
Uh,
Powerful card in that game.
Interesting. Iron Lad debuts in Young Avengers along with Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, Wiccan, and Hulkling. And the name would suggest he's the teen Iron Man, right?
Yeah.
He's not, unless I'm forgetting something major. In that series, it's been 10 years since I've read it, but in that series, he's not evil. He's usually not evil, but he is going to become Kang. And I think if I have his timeline right, before he becomes Kang, he becomes Immortus. I think Immortus predates Kang, although
Right.
maybe I have that wrong.
I know they're all the same person.
They definitely are the same person, but there's also the issue of the subjective order in which he experiences his life. Because he's a time traveler, he's always showing up at different periods in history and always at different periods in the Avengers career. So it gets really confusing about who's experienced what with whom when. The Avengers meet Kang and Immortus long before they meet Iron Lad.
So Bob, what you're trying to say is the time doesn't matter. It's just the fate.
I don't know if that's what I'm saying, but that is a reasonable inference you could draw from what I'm saying.
They're all fated to be whatever Kang becomes.
Yeah, and listeners, if you're a Young Avengers fan or an Iron Lad fan and I'm forgetting something really important, I apologize. I did the best I could do off of faint memory.
Trust me, Bob, when Iron Lad popped up in Marvel Snap, I was like, who is this? And is this made up?
As opposed to Captain America,
long Wikipedia read, let me know who he was.
As opposed to Captain America, a very real character, not at all made up.
Very real, Bob, real. Not something they make up for a game.
I just remind you of maybe the best Alan Moore line ever written before the last pre-crisis Superman story, which is, this is an imaginary story, but then again, aren't they all?
Man, not my Avengers. All right.
What other little minor continuity note, Matt? They make some reference to Avengers Forever. That's an Avengers miniseries, I think, from the late 90s, early aughts. And it's mostly dedicated to continuity cleanup. If I'm remembering right, it's Kurt Busiek. My man, I found that comic indecipherable. That's Kurt Busiek trying to link together everything in Avengers history. It wasn't for me, Chief. It wasn't for me.
I may have to just check that out just to see what it looks like.
Oh boy. I guess we could talk about it on the podcast. We would not go issue to issue.
Oh,
it would
no.
mostly just be 20 minutes and me being, what the hell, Matt? What
I'll take a look at it.
All right, Matt. So my favorite panel in this last issue we have here is 15 of Kang telling Captain America that he's an ideology that's extinct. I thought that was a sick moment.
We did find out on page 18 what Old Man Hawkeye told Captain America. Then Franklin and the Kangs told Cap to ignore this advice. But of course, Cap is not going to. And the advice was to take down the monster, meaning Tony Stark. So basically just fight. Don't give in. Continue to fight.
And that's why he's the last Avenger. And that's why time doesn't exist, but fate does.
Exactly. That's why he's the last Avenger, because he continued to fight. And that leads to my favorite panel, which is on pages 18 and 19, where Cap throws his shield at Immortus. And you're all, oh, that's stupid. They're in broken time, and Cap's going to end this by throwing his shield through Immortus. Yeah, that'd be a stupid ending. Well, of course, Immortus just phases through it. But the point was, Cap was trying to knock the time stone out of its imaginary. They bottled the time stone.
It's setting, as it were.
Yeah, it's setting. He took the remained of it and was able to transport himself back. So that was my favorite panel, Bob.
Were you surprised that the issue ended, Matt, with Captain America basically redeclaring civil war? We're doing Civil War again. My memories of this may be off, but when we read Time Runs Out, however we read it, when we read it, I believe it's basically just Civil War II before Civil War II. Matt, we're moving into the last segment of the Hickman run. I know it doesn't feel that way, and I'm not sure how long it's going to take us to cover Time Runs Out. I'm not sure if we're going to do it in 2 episodes or 1 episode, but we have Time Runs Out, and then that basically ends the Avengers run, and then we'll have an episode on Secret Wars. Right now, we can look at this as we've got 3 different eras of the Hickman run. We've got the pre-Infinity era of Volume 1 and 2. We've got the Infinity era of Volume 3 and 4. And then we've got this post-Infinity era of Volume 5 and 6. 5 last week was with the Evil Multiverse Classic Avengers. Of those 3 eras of pre-Infinity, Infinity, post-Infinity, do you have a favorite for this adjectiveless Avengers title?
Reading post-Infinity Avengers against post-Infinity New Avengers, I really am digging how the stories are so intricately woven together in a way, much more so than I feel in the previous parts. Because especially in volumes 1 and 2, I didn't feel as there were many things that crossed over. But here at the
Like all the
same type of
narrative
story.
weight was being shouldered by New Avengers in the
Correct.
pre-Infinity era.
You got
Yeah.
it. This is giving pre-Infinity a backseat at this point. Post-Infinity is looking more interesting. I still loved Infinity, but that's a huge chunk of reading. I cannot believe how many issues we covered of Adjutalist Avengers in that.
It was a lot.
When we were dropping the episodes and I was putting the numbers of the issues, but I hadn't put any for Infinity. I was like, this is going to confuse people because we do this giant jump that's wild. So just keep that in mind when you're reading. This thing's huge.
Well, thanks for joining us for Avengers Volume 6, Infinite Avengers, folks. We will drop our coverage of the next issue, New Avengers Volume 4, Perfect World, pretty soon. Then we will keep moving to the spin-off Avengers World. We'll do that in one big episode, 21 issues, one big episode, Avengers World. There's not that much to say. Then we'll cover Time Runs Out somehow. I've still got to figure out how we're going to do that.
All right, Bob. Well, sounds great.
All right. Well, this has been Uncanny Treks. I'm Bob in Cascadia. That's Matt in the Southland. Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks for listening.